Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Bucky Badger W, and today I'm back with video 2 of the new series on the channel. That's right, so we already did the top 10 safeties in the NFL, and today I'm going to be going through my top 10 cornerbacks for the 2021-2022 season in the National Football League. So if you didn't see the start of the last video, basically what this series is based on is my evaluation of players from watching them, from advanced stats, from all of that. It's not very media driven, although I do look at other people's opinions because there are people that are smarter than me, obviously, who are doing this. I will admit that. But for the most part, it is just my opinion based on stats, which ones I value, and watching the players, and which ones I thought were the best. So let's get into it. So let's start off with some honorable mentions, some guys that I thought were really good, but just didn't quite crack the top 10 for this video. We have Richard Sherman, a free agent right now, unsigned. I'm sure he'll be signed before this season. Great zone corner, great tackling, great playmaker. Richard Sherman's great. Kyle Fuller, now the Denver Broncos, formerly of the Bears, but now the Broncos. Shaquille Griffin also moved teams from the Seahawks to the Jaguars. Kendall Fuller of the Washington Football Team. Adoree Jackson of the Giants, and Darius Slay of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, without further ado, let's get into the number 10 player, Marcus Peters of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I'm definitely a lot lower on Peters than other people who, they seem to have in top 5, around that range. I just don't see it because, he's very aggressive. He has great instincts. He's able to get his hands on passes to break them up and get interceptions. But also, I think he's very aggressive. His aggression burns him at times. And even though, his high end is very good, he's one of the best out there, he's also a bad tackler. And like I said, his aggression burns him at times, and he gets beat for big plays, even though he only allowed 3 touchdowns last year with 4 picks. But Peter's big smack talker. His mic'd ups are very fun to watch. So Marcus Peters here slots in at number 10. At number 9, we have Marshon Lattimore of the New Orleans Saints. Now, I'm a lot higher on Marshon Lattimore than other people are, which is weird because I originally actually had Marshon Lattimore as high as number 6 on this list, which probably shows you how high on him I am. I think probably a big downside with him is that, as you see, last year he allowed a passer rating of 94.5, not good at all. 7 touchdowns allowed, 2 picks, so his stats weren't great. And he's very inconsistent, but I'm expecting a bounce back year next year. Lattimore, he's very physical. He shows up for big games and makes big plays, which is, I thought the stats didn't really do him justice because he slacked off against worse competition, but he made plays against guys like, Mike Evans, for instance, and he was able to show up against bigger, physical, more physical guys, which I think, is it's something that not a lot of corners can do. So, I'm going to redeem him for that, and I'm going to put him here at number 9 when a lot of people probably wouldn't have him on their list. So Marshon Lattimore of the Saints in here at number 9. At number 8, we have another Ohio State corner, the university that some people think is DBU. Not me, I think it's probably LSU. But Denzel Ward here at number 8 of the Cleveland Browns. You'll see he's the only one on this list that is not listed at the bottom there of kind of the stats the visual that I made. He's not listed for a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, anything like that, which in my eyes is kind of ridiculous because, if you look at the stats, he's very good with the stats. 2 picks, 4 touchdowns allowed isn't great, but good missed tackle percentage, solid passer rating allowed, very good completion percentage allowed. And you'll see the 18 passes defended in only 12 games, which I think is one of the best rates that I've seen. As he's great in single coverage at being able to get his hands on the ball. He didn't play the best competition last year, as he didn't play many alphas throughout the Browns schedule, but he was able to, he sometimes would lose guys in coverage, but he was always able to make up ground, get his hands on passes. He was kind of like a Marcus Peters, and not really like a Marcus Peters because he didn't have the ball. I won't say he didn't have the ball instincts. I would say he's probably more of a Marcus Peters, but he doesn't get burnt nearly as much as Peters, even though he's not tremendous in that sense, which, he gets burnt a little bit in coverage. That's why he's at number 8. But Denzel Ward, very overlooked, very underrated here at number 8. Now on to another AFC North corner, At number 7, we have Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens. And earlier we saw Marcus Peters of the Ravens on this list, and I think these guys probably form the best corner duo in the NFL by a pretty wide margin. And I think a large reason for that is because of both of their playmaking abilities. Now you see Humphrey last year only 1 interception, but that doesn't really tell the tale of his abilities as a playmaker. I think he's very, he has an ability to make plays on the ball and really just to shut down guys at times. And I think he's very versatile, which is probably the best thing about him. He's a great athlete, which gives way to his versatility. He covers all kinds of guys. He can cover true X receivers, receivers out wide. He can cover receivers in the slot, which I think people seem to think is kind of a common trait among NFL cornerbacks. It's really not. It's very rare to find a guy who can cover with the ability that Marlon Humphrey can, different shapes and sizes of receivers, like X receivers, slot receivers, run all different types of coverages. It's a very valuable trait to have because, going into a matchup against one team, you can stick him against, a Michael Thomas, and then the next week you can stick him against a Cooper Kupp, which is a very special trait that Humphrey has. And although he's not the best, I think, at doing any of those things, he's very good at pretty much doing everything that a corner can do, which is why he slots in here at number 7. And now on to number 6, a guy that it really surprises me why he isn't talked about a lot, James Bradberry IV of the New York Giants. And the reason that it really surprises me that he isn't talked about a lot is because he plays in New York. He's a young corner. He's a young, very good corner that plays in New York City. And he isn't the flashiest corner by any means, but he's a very good corner, and he's pretty much a shutdown, I think. And, he doesn't have all the TFLs or the picks, even though 3 picks is a lot, but he doesn't make highlight reel plays that fans are seeing all the time. But yet receivers just seem to have off days against James Bradberry, and you can't really ask your number 1 corner for much more than that. Now on to the top 5, kind of a tier above, in my opinion, the other guys. At number 5, we have Tre'Davious White of the Buffalo Bills. And White, he is arguably the best corner in the NFL around the line of scrimmage. He makes plays in the backfield. He doesn't have a great missed tackle percentage, but that is mostly because he's making all these hard plays. And that may be the thing that jumps out the most to you about Tre'Davious White, which maybe isn't a great thing to say about a corner, but it's a plus. And I think a lot of the reason that he's so great around the line of scrimmage is because he's a great athlete. A lot of these guys are crazy athletes, but White, he stands out among the crowd, I think, with his athleticism. He's a playmaker in every sense of the word. His playmaking instincts and ability, I think, and his tackling expertise make him great in zone. So I think he's one of the best zone corners in the NFL. He's also very good in man, but just the Bills are able to kind of stick him alongside the field and say, go make plays, and he's able to make plays for them. So that's why he's on here at number 5. Now, number 4, maybe a bit controversial here. Number 4, we have Xavien Howard of the Miami Dolphins. And you see here on the right side of the screen, you see first team All-Pro. He allowed a 48.3 passer rating. He had 10 picks, stood out way among the crowd, other than J.C. Jackson of the New England Patriots, who had 9, which is also crazy, even though he isn't on this list. Next most was multiple guys with 4, at least among cornerbacks. And spoiler alert, when I do the interior defensive lineman video, Aaron Donald is number 1. I don't think that should come as any surprise, but Aaron Donald's number 1 for that video. He deserved Defensive Player of the Year last year, but Xavien Howard, I believe he may have gotten 3rd place behind TJ Watt, but he deserved, all the recognition that he got last year, because he was baiting these elite quarterbacks into mistakes. Like Russell Wilson, I know he picked off Russell Wilson last year. He made a crazy play on the ball. I'm pretty sure he picked off Patrick Mahomes twice in the game against the Chiefs that they had. And although 10 picks, he's not going to do that again this year. A lot of that can be attributed to luck. I think interceptions aren't my number 1 thing with evaluating cornerbacks, because your guy has to be open at some point, probably, for you to even get thrown at, to have the opportunity to have an interception. And also, just catching interceptions is tough. There's a lot of dropped interceptions. I'm sure he'll drop a couple next year. He made a couple crazy plays on the ball this year, which goes into my next point. But, the 10 interceptions is crazy, but also he's elite at baiting quarterbacks into mistakes. I talked about Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, elite quarterbacks. He just baits them into mistakes like nothing. He's able to make you think receiver's open, psych, he's not open. Xavien Howard just picked you off. He's easily the best in the NFL at that, in my opinion. He has the best ball skills for a cornerback by far. Justin Simmons, safety from the Broncos that we broke down in the safety video, maybe has better ball skills, but maybe even for a DB or just defensive player overall, Howard probably has the best ball skills in the NFL. And his aggression did once again lead to some mistakes, as he gave up 4 touchdowns last year, but 10 picks don't lie, man. Xavien Howard is for real, and he's here to stay. He's number 4 on this list for a reason. He's going to rise next year. Now, starting out the top 3 with another AFC East corner of the New England Patriots, we have Stephon Gilmore. And Stephon is very hard to rank for me because by far, not even close, he was the best corner in the NFL by far in 2019. I believe he won Defensive Player of the Year last year, or that year. He was unbelievable, shut down. The Patriots leave their corners on an island, and he still locked down every receiver he faced. He was amazing. He easily would have been number 1 last year. But injuries derailed his 2020, and he just flat out, he wasn't really that great. And the Patriots defense went from great, best in the league caliber, to just okay, and he dropped off with that. So maybe this year, when they're adding in guys that maybe we'll talk about in future videos, like Judon, Kyle Van Noy, Christian Barmore through the draft. So you think the Patriots defense will probably get a lot better in 2021. And, I expect a major bounce back from Stephon Gilmore because he was as good as lockdown as it gets in 2019 in man-to-man. And although, it's kind of hard to sustain that level of production, I don't know if he'll keep it at that level, but I think we can expect Stephon Gilmore to definitely bounce back closer to where he was back then. And obviously, if you're a Pats fan, you're hoping, 2020 was just a fluke. 2019 is more who he really is. If that's the case, he can definitely have a very good argument for number 1 by the end of this year. But as NFL fans, we just have to see that. And if we do see that, he'll definitely have a very good argument for number 1 next year. And here we go on to the number 2 best corner in the NFL, Jaire Alexander of the Green Bay Packers. Jaire has a great argument for number 1. He is great around the line of scrimmage, one of the best in the league as a cornerback at doing that, making plays around the line of scrimmage, and run defense and stuff like that. He's a playmaker, but he doesn't give up big plays like some others do. You see just the 1 touchdown allowed last year, even though with just the 1 pick, but he's still a playmaker, don't get it twisted. His stats are unspectacular on the surface because quarterbacks wouldn't look his way at times. And that leads into my next point of he's a definition of a lockdown man cornerback. He's kind of like, he's what Xavien Howard was last year, kind of, except, he didn't have the picks last year, but he was amazing last year. His wide receiver, something I noticed on tape, his wide receiver always seemed to get more screens than maybe anybody else because those good wide receivers couldn't get open and they just needed the ball in their hands, which I think was very impressive as Jaire, he was able to lock him down to that point where the opposing offense said, we have to get the ball in this guy's hands, but Jaire, he's not going to get open against Jaire Alexander, so we have to find some other way to get the ball in his hands. He'd still tackle him within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I mean, if you're looking for a knock of Jaire Alexander, I really don't have any. It's just that the guy number 1, who I'm sure most of you figured out who it is, the guy number 1's just a little bit better, but I do not have anything against Jaire Alexander. He's a great player, not many holes in this game, and he's extremely young right now. I mean, he's going to keep getting better. It's scary how good this guy can become. But at the moment, I'm sorry, but the number 1 guy on my list is just a little bit better, Jalen Ramsey of the Los Angeles Rams. And I always think something fun to do is to try and describe one player just using one word, just describe their play style, kind of their personality. I think Jalen Ramsey is a bully in every sense of the word, man. He's always guarding the opposing number 1 receiver, which is kind of expected if you're the best corner in the NFL, obviously. And he frustrates the opposing number 1 without fail. I mean, I'm a Seahawks fan. DK Metcalf last year, he would get heated on the sideline just because Jalen Ramsey would not let up. He would not let DK get anything against him, which, really nobody else in the NFL was able to do as well as him, he's easily the best zone corner in the NFL. Jaire Alexander has a better argument for the better man corner, but I think Jalen Ramsey is easily the best zone corner. He's a great tackler. He's super physical. Just like Jaire, quarterbacks at times just won't look his way because he kind of has that Richard Sherman factor. You know, he's not the best playmaker, or like, you know, he's not the best at making plays on the ball at times to get interceptions, but like, as you see with the only one interception last year, so he's not the best at doing that, but then receivers really just don't get open against him. So that's a main reason why quarterbacks don't throw his way, because there's nobody open to throw to ever. And the top three, I think, on my list here is very close, but Jalen's consistency over the years won it for him. You know, just consistently being a great player since, I don't know, at least like 3 years ago in Jacksonville. Not exactly sure that I remember when his peak started, but he's been great for a while now, and I just can't ignore how great he's been. Jaire and Stephon, they're kind of close. I'm sure Xavien Howard, if he has that year he had last year, can get kind of up here. Kind of something that summarizes Jalen Ramsey is the clip that is going around, has been going around for a very long time, of Darnell Mooney kind of running a very good stop and go route against him. That has been all over the internet. It wasn't a catch because it was an overthrow, of course, by Trubisky. But the fact that he got burnt once and that is all over the internet kind of says a lot about him, that never happens. But again, Jalen Ramsey, great player, very deserving of the number one spot on this list, I think, even over a lot of other great corners. And that's going to do it for my top 10 NFL cornerbacks for the 2021 to 2022 NFL season. Thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please consider liking it, subscribing to my channel. Obviously, I'm going to be going through this series. You know, consider sharing it with your friends. That's kind of the more important part. But obviously, if you didn't like the video, leave a comment. Tell me what was wrong with it. I'd be happy to engage in conversation with you. That's one of the best parts about doing YouTube, is engaging with conversations with other fans. And until next time, I am Bucky Badger W saying peace out.